Welcome to the All About You podcast. My name is Sheila and I am your host. In this podcast, I invite people to tell their stories of their travels, hobbies, and passions. These podcasts are also now available on my All About You YouTube channel. So if you have a story to tell, please contact me on allaboutyoupodcast@yahoo.com and let's tell your story. Welcome to another conversation on the All About You podcast. And my guest today is Anu, and we are talking about her experiences of having clairvoyant abilities. Anu, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Sheila.
Well, I'm really looking forward to this conversation because I'm really interested in the world of the clairvoyant. So hopefully we can have a nice conversation and we can talk about what it is, what it isn't, dispel some of the myths and get some information to make it nice and clear what the world of being a clairvoyant is like. Anu, when did you first discover you had this ability?
When I was around maybe 8 or 9 years old, but I didn't understand at the time what exactly it was and what I was experiencing. And my true realization came about when I was 21. That's when actually it really hit me like, okay, so I am truly a clairvoyant, and it's not something that I can ignore at this point because I've always been like this. And now that I truly understand what's happening or what happens to me, I can only embrace it. So I first time I truly realized was when I was 21, but I knew since I was a child that yes, I have some abilities that I can't truly explain what they are.
Can we, Anu, just clarify what a clairvoyant is and what it isn't?
That's a very good question. So clairvoyance is an ability where you can see situations, people, places where you are not in person, but they are happening maybe in the future or in the parallel timeline. And it's stronger with the places and people you have connection with as compared to people you do not have a connection with. And I feel so I don't know the science behind it, but I'm just explaining what my experience has been. And I feel the reason behind this intensity of the visions is based upon the energies of people you are connected with. So in my case, I have solid intuitions or clairvoyant intuitions with respect to my friends and my family. But if I have to do that with a stranger, I am not as proficient, or I choose not to be proficient because then it's a mingling of a lot of energies. And my preference is to be only restricting myself with the people I know and I care for. And if I do have any vision or an intuition about them, then I share with them. But other than that, not with the strangers. And a lot of people also feel that dreams could be a way of clairvoyance as well. It's different for dreams as well. It's a part of clairvoyance, but the reality of a clairvoyance is when you actually see things happening in front of your eyes like a movie, and you experience it right in the moment when you're not even there, but you feel you're experiencing it in person right there.
So let's say, for example, you are in your kitchen preparing a meal and you are focused on that, but then all of a sudden it's as if this screen is in front of you and you can see a situation about a family member or somebody close to you happening. Is that the type of thing that happens?
Yes. I have had visions or intuitions, yes, while cooking, commuting, driving, maybe walking, working, just about anything. And the most solid visions I have had is especially when I'm meditating. And that's when actually I came to know about my clairvoyant abilities during my meditation course. And I didn't understand at the beginning. Then, when I spoke with a couple of friends and teachers, that's when I came to know, okay, this is interesting. And I now finally understand what's happening. And it's not something detrimental, but it's something special that not everybody experiences. And I only need to understand how do I navigate this. And I have had visions and intuitions at different times. And if it's something that is life-changing or urgent, then yes, I do reach out to my friend and family and just give them a heads up, like, hey, I have a feeling XYZ, and I don't know what's going on with you, but if it sounds similar, just a heads up in maybe dealing with the situation or just being safe or whatever. So it has helped a lot of people. It has helped me a lot of times as well. So yes, there's no date or time or a day for these intuitions. They just come when you're least expecting it, and you just got to go from there.
I mean, one of the things I knew, it's obvious you have embraced this gift you have. What has been the reception when you are trying to maybe explain to a family member, okay, you've had this experience and, I think you need to look into this idea or something. Are they generally open to it? Because I guess everybody could be different. Some people would embrace it and other people, no, it's all hocus pocus and da da da. What's been your experience?
That's a very good question. So I'm very careful with whom I share the information of my qualities and my ability, because I know that people come from different cultures, religious backgrounds, spiritual backgrounds. So not everybody has the equal openness to accept something that's outside of general definition in a language, I believe. So if I do have intuitions and visions, I usually share with people who are very close to me. That's two of my best friends and one of my friend from meditation center and my mom. And that's about it. And I have had visions of other people as well, intuitions, like really solid intuitions and visions about other people. But then I choose not to share with them, because if there's nothing that's hindering them or causing them harm, and it's just an intuition about the next stage of their life or part of their life, then I try not tell and give them the space they need to kind of grow through that experience instead of going and telling them. And so I have had many experiences or visions of people who are going to go through some life-changing moments, like, starting right next month. And that's going to range like 3 years, 4 years in time. And unless it was detrimental, I don't tell them anything about it if I know that they are not going to understand. And unfortunately, the number of people who are not going to understand this is very high compared to people who can truly understand this.
I think that's a very interesting point you've made there, Anu, because I also did a podcast with a lady about tarot cards. And when I talk to people and they say, well, what have you got coming up on the podcast? When I mentioned tarot, I got this very extreme reaction. Some people were very, oh my God, that is so exciting. I've always wanted to have it done, but I'm a bit afraid. Oh, I can't wait to listen to it. And other people were, it's absolute rubbish. They're all charlatans. And I found it very much divided people. You were very much for it and interested. Other people, absolutely not. And I've actually had the same reaction with clairvoyant, because a lot of people, well, if that's the case, why are they not telling people, don't leave the house today because this is going to happen, or don't buy that house because there's a problem with it? Why are these people not going out and saving people from various circumstances and difficult situations? So again, talking about being a clairvoyant and having this ability provoked a very strong reaction in people. And I find that incredibly interesting.
I agree. And people assume that if you have a gift, you're just going to go on this life-saving spree for the entire planet. But then they fail to understand is that, so here I'm going to take a little bit more turn towards my my meditative philosophy and then integrate it together here, is that people forget that everybody comes, or everybody has their own karma. That's a familial karma, generational karma, their own individual karma, and the karma of this entire world collectively. And it may or may not be possible to save someone from what they might be facing. And if I or some other clairvoyant knows about it, but it's about giving them a chance to grow from there. Not all the experiences in life are to cause us harms, but it's an opportunity to grow from there. And yes, I'm a human. I have my karma. I don't have a perfect life. And it's also a lot of times tough to believe what I'm just saying, that I have to be mindful, like I'm growing from this, not just being skeptic about it. So the same thing that I do for others, I feel I try and do for myself as well. And that is one of the reasons why these people don't go out and saving others. Because another set of equation in this case also is that I've seen with a lot of other spiritually awakened people, preference is not to get involved with many people or many strangers, because the more people you are involved with, whether spiritually or using the skill, then that's that much karma you're getting involved with. So you never know what you're bringing in when you are connecting with these people. It might be harmless or it might be harmful. We don't know. We cannot know for sure. So that's why a lot of clairvoyant and gifted people are careful and who they are getting associated with.
I think if we sort of talk on a personal level, I think we've all had the situation where maybe we've had an intuition about something, or we have as what they call our gut reaction to something. Often there's a situation and we just think, oh, I don't feel particularly easy with this person or particularly comfortable. We can't explain why, but we just have this inner sensation, and it's often in the stomach. I guess that's why we call it a gut reaction. Intuition that I'm not really sure about this situation. I think I better do a bit more work and find out a bit more information. So I think we can all relate to intuition and our gut reaction on something. But I think having your ability is something very, very different. Maybe it is the same as intuition, but on a much higher level. And I guess some people would embrace having this ability, and other people, no, it's not something I can explain, I can understand. I'm just going to no ignore the whole thing. So I think you're incredibly brave to sort of embrace this ability you have, this ability and this gift, as you say, because not everybody has that.
Yes, it took me a while to embrace this. It took me even longer to finally come out with this. Because as we know, like as I mentioned earlier, not everybody is as accepting as I am of myself and what I can do. And that's what sets people apart, that we can't ignore things until they go into oblivion. Nothing goes in the oblivion. Everything comes up sooner or later. That's how the human mind works. That's how the world works on a very deep level. So we can't escape it. So the only way to move forward is to face it, accept it, let it go, and keep moving. And that's what I did. I realized it, I faced it, I accepted it. And yes, I have these visions, but I didn't become involved with them. They didn't become a part of my identity. I am still a lot many things outside of being a clairvoyant. And this is not the only thing that defines me overall as a person. And as a matter of fact, this is my first public interview about my ability ever, because I was shy and I didn't really understand how I can share this with people. But now I feel like I've shed a lot many layers of my personality, my old personality, and the newer version of me, if you want to call that, even more comfortable in embracing myself and the world as I see from my new perspective. So this was one of the reasons I feel I need to give myself that credit, that yes, it was difficult, tricky, but also I'm glad that I could finally get there. Because as I said, if anybody in my network or my friends listens to this, at least from my culture, who doesn't know me very well, the first thing they're going to do is be very judgmental, like tear this interview apart, question by question, sentence by sentence, and then grill me on that if they see me next time. But then when I look at it, I just feel sorry for these people, because that's why some people have these abilities and some people don't. Because to be able to accept yourself means you are accepting others as they come. You don't expect them to be a certain way or to fit a certain box, which is sadly very rampant in my side of the world, that you have to have certain things by certain age. And I don't fit in any box anyway, like not even with the way my life is, not even the way I am. And that takes a lot of courage to just come out. It's actually equivalent to coming out of closet about your gender orientation or sexual orientation here, at least for my side of the world, that I'm coming out with this gift and expressing and embracing in front of everyone. Okay, yes, this is what I have, and this is what it is.
Well, first of all, I feel very, very privileged that you are happy to share your story with us. I mean, that's amazing. Anu, can I ask you, how have you used your ability in your own life? Have you used it for any particular situations?
Yes, I have. I have used it myself personally for my own personal situations. And I've also used it for my friends. I wouldn't say used it, but because I can't control what happens to me, what I see. But yes, I can only control the information I can offer the people who are involved in what I see. For myself, one experience I have had is almost 12 years ago now, with one of my boyfriends in the past. And I was sitting my retreat at the meditation center, and like we talked about the gut feeling, and I kept feeling in my gut that something's wrong and I need to get out of this relationship. This person is not right, of course, for me, but they also need to do a lot of work on themselves, which they don't realize because they're way too mature to understand the work they need to do. And so it's only up to me, like, how do I get myself out of the equation? And so when I was in the retreat, very clearly, I don't know what day it was, very clearly, I'm meditating and I see a distinct vision in front of my eyes, like a movie. Like I'm watching over his shoulder as he's texting another girl that he was cheating on me with, that I had my doubts about, but I didn't know for sure what was happening. And I see it over his shoulder, the text he sends, and I also see the contact name right there. And that's when I realized, okay, so this is true, and there's nothing I can do about this to change it. The only thing I can do is make myself safe. So that helped me get out of the relationship. This is just the tip of the entire iceberg that kind of ensued everything that followed. But this is what gave me the confidence and the information I needed to get out of it. And it was life-saving. And the people I met during my journey when I was trying and get out of this relationship were amazing. And it felt like the entire universe is helping me in a way, like, Anu, Anu, go ahead. This is the end of your old life. You're going to start a brand new thing from here, and you're never going to be the same person. And I have not been the same person ever since, because I became more aware, more self-aware. That's the word for it. And I think as we get older, the self-awareness just keeps enhancing and augmenting through different life experiences that we have over the years. So this was my personal experience where my vision really helped me get out of a bad situation. And before this, when I was 14 or 13 years old, I also had, I think at the time I didn't have a vision, but I had an intuition that we were supposed to go on a trip in I don't know if you've heard of the Andaman and Nicobar Islands in the Indian Ocean.
No.
So they are island, they are a part of India, they are in the Indian Ocean, and we were supposed to go on a holiday. But I and my family were discussing the dates. Everybody was discussing the dates when we are planning to go. So first time when we were discussing, we were planning in the end of December of 2004. But then for some reason, when I was in school, I think I was in 8th or 9th grade. For some reason, I thought, like, I don't think that's a good idea to go then. I think we should go earlier. So I went back home after my school and I told my parents, I think we should go the last week of November and come back before the middle of December so that we can rest and enjoy the holidays at home. And they were like, okay, that's also a good idea. Then that way we can rest from the trip. We wouldn't have to take time off, and my school would already have holidays. So it would be good. And so we did the trip. Okay, this is the December of 2004. We did the trip. We came back. And the next day when I wake up from my bed, the news on the television is the tsunami, the 2004 tsunami that hit all the places we had visited a day before. And that was a big realization for me that, okay, this is something I have to pay very close attention to what I feel and what I see. Because if we had gone in the second half of December, I wouldn't be here, because the tsunami and the earthquake and everything was so bad that it took them 2 years to recover from there. And people were stranded for months on that island. We came like a day before that hit, which is a miracle. So this was about my experiences and the experiences I have with other friends.
The story you have just told us literally saved the life of you and your family.
Yes.
I mean, as a young child, coming home from school and telling your parents, okay, you need to change all your plans. I'm sure a lot of parents would have just dismissed you as a childish idea and continued with their plans, and we can't even think what could have happened to you and your family. That's just incredible. Can we talk about how your ability has helped somebody else?
Yes. So especially my friends. And those I'm very close to. Or one of the experiences I have is I can very well intuitively feel if one of my friend is already pregnant, going to be pregnant very soon, whether or not she knows yet or not. I usually get very solid intuitions about that. This has always since childhood. I remember when one of my aunt was pregnant, I kind of knew that it might happen before everybody else knew. And then when people started talking about she being pregnant, I was like, yeah, well, it's not a news for me. It might be for you, but I think for some reason I already knew. But it's very solid with my friends, very much. I think amongst my friends, I have around 10 nephews and nieces who I had already told their parents that they're going to have a child, or I felt already that they're going to have a child. It's with people I'm very close to, my best friends. Two of them I already knew, like I already told them, I think, actually three of them. I already told them, like, I think you're pregnant. I don't know if you know already or if you don't know. And with two other friends, I kind of kept feeling that they're pregnant, but we hadn't spoken in like a year. They're still my best friends, but we hadn't spoken in a year. So I texted them that, hey, I think you might be pregnant. I've been feeling this since last week. And then she goes and she sends me a picture of her bump. I'm like, bingo.
Wow, that's amazing.
And my another friend from meditation center, I think she was 2.5 or 3 months pregnant, that's not even showing yet. And I see her picture and I text her, I'm looking at your picture and I think you are most definitely pregnant. I think if you don't know already, you should go get checked because I can see something here. And then she texts me, how can you say so surely that I am most definitely pregnant? I'm like, I don't know. Just looking at you, I feel like you're most certainly pregnant. I don't know. I just can't shake it off myself. And then she goes like, yeah, I'm 2.5 months pregnant. And then she goes, but how did you know? I'm not even showing yet. I haven't told anyone. How did you know just looking at my picture? Okay, just looking at my picture that I'm pregnant. Like, I don't know. It's me. It's always been like that. Another couple of friends in the US I had who don't know about my abilities. These are those friends. I didn't tell them. They were visiting me and my friends in September from a different state at the time where I lived, and we were talking about cooking something in kitchen, and all of a sudden this hits me. about my sister-in-law. I consider her sister-in-law, and this hits me. I'm like, oh shoot, okay. And I had to kind of make a decision at the point, like, do I tell her or I don't tell her? Because the intuition I got was she's gonna get pregnant that weekend. Yeah, and it's gonna happen right then and there. And I think I got this intuition around like Monday night or Sunday night, I believe. So I knew like the next weekend it's gonna happen. And it's, yeah. And today her kid is 3 years old. I think 3 or 4 years old. I think 3 years old. But I knew that she's gonna have a boy. The boy is not gonna look anything like her. It's gonna look everything like her husband. And many things around that area. And I also knew that she's not ready for the childbirth. I tried talking to her, but then the problem again in my culture with people is that, well, if you're young, you've never been pregnant, or you don't have a child, you're dismissed as maybe dismissed, assuming that I don't know things, or you don't know things. And so I tried explaining her, but there, yes, she dismissed me, which I don't hold up against her. It's just the culture. It is what it is. And for me, I'm pretty clear that yes, I don't want kids. I've never wanted kids, but I have this gift. So I try and share it with people who I know are going to appreciate. So my first instinct of not telling her about what I felt was right, because she was already dismissive when I was trying to help her prepare for the childbirth. And she was not ready to accept my help or be open on listening to me. The another friend in the same party, we had a party while this friend was pregnant, hosted by another friend, and we had a very delicious, I still dream of that pineapple cake. It was one of the most delicious pineapple cakes I've had in my life. And so our hosts that day, once the party was over, we were all sitting and chatting, drinking tea, eating leftover, the cake. So the host friend, she takes a big chunk of cake and she brings up and she sits beside me and she's enjoying it. And she says, "This is the best cake I've had." Like, yes, that's the best cake people have had in like years. So she was really enjoying it. And then I look at her and then this hits me again, like, oh shoot, I think she's pregnant. But I didn't say anything at the time because I didn't really know whether she will be more accepting or not. And she didn't know at the time. So she came to know like 2 weeks after that she is pregnant. And she was, I think, 6 weeks pregnant when they were hosting that party. And they didn't tell her. Nobody knew about she being pregnant, I think 6 months after that party. And then when her husband told everyone, like kind of broke the news, I stayed back in the it was a Zoom call. So I stayed back in the meeting and told him, like, I think I had already had an intuition that she might be pregnant. I just didn't tell you. He was like, how did you know? I'm like, it is what it is. Like, this is how I am. And I just know about all these things. And he was like, you should have told us. We would have tested sooner. It would have been fun to have kind of find it with all of you around us. You know, it would have been like a moment of celebration. And I said, like, I didn't know that you would be so accepting of me telling you that your wife might be pregnant. You should get tested, because I did not have the same experience earlier. And this, like the other lady who did not like me telling her about childbirth, she was also there. So, like, you know, it would have been so much conflict on so many levels. But yes, his wife was pretty nice. I later, when she had the baby, I think a month or 2 months later, I spoke with her. I told her like what intuitions I had. And she was like, wow, that's incredible. Like, you can already feel all these things, because it's not everyone can do that.
I mean, there's some fascinating stories there, Anu, and luckily they've all got a happy ending. But I think it's a huge responsibility you may have, because you don't often know the personal situations of these women, whether it's going to be good news or whether it's going to be the end of the world. So I think you've got a huge responsibility on your shoulders. and every single case is different as to how well you know the person. Do you think it's going to be news that's going to be positive for them? So that's tough on you. One thing I wanted to ask you, have you connected with other people who have this ability?
I have, and not everybody is equally open on sharing, as I have mentioned in the past. Even these well-known tarot card readers, psychics, they might see things, but they are not open on sharing about their experience or what they feel when it comes to the point. But I have had two friends. One friend I don't talk to anymore, but she did tell me at the time that what she used to feel and see. Her experience used to be like real life experience. So she would see people who have just died or about to die, who might be in any part of the world, but they would come and appear in front of her. And she would see them, suppose I'm like sitting here, she would see them maybe walking on the street or walking by her front door or just in her kitchen. She saw that for one of our classmates back when I was in my undergrad. She saw her grandmother who had just died in a completely different town, but nobody had called yet. I think it must have been only like 5 or 10 minutes at the time. So nobody had called here across the state in the city to tell them like, hey, the grandma has died. And so my friend is with my classmate at her place, and then she sees this old woman walking from the front door inside in the bedroom. And then she asks my classmate that, hey, an old lady, like a dark old lady just walked by here. Do you know who she is? And she was like, who are you talking about? Who dark old lady? And she said dark because everybody else in my classmates' family were fairer in complexion, and only the grandma was the one who had a darker complexion. So that's why it was very distinctive. Like, who's this different looking person walking through the house? So no one had seen her. Only my friend did. And also then when she did see that, she kind of dismissed it, but then they got a call in like the next 15 minutes that yes, the grandma passed away. And then when my classmate showed the picture of grandma to my friend said, yes, that's the lady who just walked past like 10 minutes ago. She walked past in front of us from the front door to her bedroom. And that used to be her bedroom where she walked in, and it was empty. There was no one there, but that's what she saw.
That is just amazing.
Yeah, and I'm very grateful that she did share that with me. And it may or may not be same, but the experiences or the bottom line of all of this is kind of similar. And another friend, he wouldn't have visions, but he had dreams. He still has dreams. They are very vivid, very clear, what's happening. And he didn't get a good guidance on how he can maybe nurture himself better to be able to utilize his qualities. So he used to be very fearful when he was a child because he would see all these things happening in dream, and then they would happen in real time, like the next day or the same week sometime. So that caused a lot of fear in his mind, and his caregivers weren't informed enough to help a child with such special circumstances either develop or understand what he was facing. So unfortunately, he kind of lost it slowly, gradually. But in reality, this gift is never lost. It might be suppressed. It might be in hibernation, but it's never lost. And so for me, my gift was suppressed for many years. When I was in a very traumatic, abusive relationship, it was like everything in my mind was suppressed because the only thing that was in the foreground of my life was, oh, I gotta survive this, because survival was more important. But eventually, as mind goes back to its normal sense of freedom, sense of safety, its inherent qualities and abilities come forward. And that's what helped people connect back to their gifts. And unfortunately, for my friend, he didn't have that outlet to understand first what he possesses, and second, yes, if it's in hibernation, then how he can come out or get it back from there. And one point I really want to make here is that, yes, we are talking about these gifts and abilities that people have. They go in a completely opposite direction compared to what the meditative practices tell us to do. So meditation is about staying in the moment, observing yourself in the moment, in real time, what's really happening within you, on you, but nothing around you. And this is something one of my teachers told me, is that people who have more open minds, they come with a certain sense of purpose that they might not know at the time when they were born, but they come with a sense of purpose. And these are the people who have such gifts because they have this responsibility of doing good, creating good karma, and the ripple effect of that good karma over years and over generations in the world. So the people who come with this gift are different inherently, and not everyone has the same privilege and advantage of having these things. But some people get lost in this and they play this game of watching a movie with their visions, and which is not healthy, because then they are doing a disservice to themselves because they are serving outside. But as a human being, there's nothing outside, everything is within us. And meditatively or spiritually, when we look at it, visions and intuitions, they are important, I agree. But then getting carried forward with those is not recommended. And that is why I don't share what I see and I feel with a lot of people, because it's easy to get carried on. And people would always might keep coming like, hey, then I'm going through this and this problem. Can you do a reading, or can you tell me your intuition about it? So it's not living in the moment. And it's also doing a disservice to people, because then they don't have the chance to grow from that experience. Like, for one time, I ignored my intuition and I got killed. And I shouldn't have ignored it, but then it was because of my karma, my past conditioning. I didn't trust myself enough and I still ignored it, and I went in when I shouldn't have. And I almost got killed, but it was very much needed for me to happen that, because if it hadn't happened, I wouldn't have had this magnitude of growth that I saw after that. And that was one of the reasons why very few people are blessed with this gift, and why these few people don't share it with a lot of others, because they know it comes with, yes, restrictions, a lot of understanding, and responsibility. And the biggest responsibility is to ourselves, because these gifts are not for others, but for us to grow ourselves, stay in the moment, how we are growing here in this moment. And that's more important to remember whenever this happens. And that's what my teacher said. You treat your visions and intuitions that you are having as a movie that plays in the background while you're still here doing the work you need to do for yourself.
I mean, it's been very interesting listening to what you're saying, Anu, because the word that kept coming up in my mind was responsibility. And it's a responsibility to yourself because you have been given this gift, but it's also a responsibility to others, because your job is not to go out there and warn everybody not to do this, not to turn left, not to turn right. But it is a responsibility. And going back to your stories of you feeling that these women were pregnant before they actually knew, that's a huge responsibility on your shoulders. Do you tell them? Do you keep it to yourself? And every situation is different. Just before we finish, Anu, is there anything else you want to talk about to do with the world of having the gift of being a clairvoyant?
Yes. There is something I do want to talk about before we sign off, is the effects of mental health concerns on these qualities and how people can confuse themselves based on what they're experiencing as an after effect of their mental health suffering, as opposed to the gift itself. So I think we spoke a little bit about, when we were chatting, regarding dissociation, clairvoyance, and astral projection. And this was something I really wanted to touch base in our episode, because it kept coming in my mind as an intuitive thought, like, I think we should talk about this for some reason. And it just kept coming and coming and coming. So I kind of sat and like, okay, let it come and let me see what direction this would want me to talk about it. So I have experienced both, all the three ends of the spectrum. That's the dissociation, which is not a healthy situation. Then clairvoyance that we talked about today, that's the gift. And the another high level experience is the astral projection as well. And it's important for people to understand the difference between all three of them, because they might have experienced one or more of these phenomenon, but not really could put a finger on it, like, hey, okay, so what I experienced is exactly this. So starting with talking about dissociation, is a altered state that's caused by a lot of underlying mental health concerns. It could be depression, could be because of depression, severe trauma, PTSD, some disorders, which I'm not sure I can actually define and say here because I'm not a professional. But because of my trauma and my depression in the past, I have experienced dissociation. And it's not similar, the experience is not at all similar to what an experience with a clairvoyance experience is. Because clairvoyance is happening when there's a difference. When you see a vision, or when you have a vision, it's you actually watching it. But in a dissociation, it's a vision where we're like, okay, you're physically present over here, but your mind is like completely elsewhere. You have no idea what's happening around you. If you're talking to somebody, you have no idea who is that person, what they're talking about. And I have experienced both the clairvoyance and dissociation. And because of the trauma I have gone through, my dissociation was really bad, because I would dissociate for hours in length. And I didn't realize at the time that it was different. I didn't even think that it was clairvoyant, because my clairvoyant abilities were very suppressed in hibernation. And the only thing that was happening to me was this dissociation on such a high degree that I didn't believe that this was possible at the time. And so this is not a normal state of mind. And any person who's experiencing this, I really, really feel they should go get help. And in this case, the help with talk therapy is not helpful. You need like a medical intervention from a medical professional, like a psychologist or psychiatrist. And it's impossible to treat by yourself. And it's very common amongst people who have experienced severe trauma for years. Clairvoyance, we have already discussed about it. The next phenomenon was the astral projection. It's a high level state of mind that again is where a person experiences it themselves. So it's not an out-of-body experience, it's within the body experience. It might be in a different plane, dimension, I don't know. But I have had conversations with people and experiences whom I have never met in years. And we felt the exact same thing when these things were happening. And I get a call from my friend, and then they ask me, like, hey, this is what I experienced last night. Did you have a similar experience? Because you were in that and we were very close. Like, we were actually going through it together. Like, yep, I had the same thing. And I thought I was dreaming. And they go like, nope, it wasn't a dream. I experienced it too. So it was mutual. And that's when I realized that, okay, this mutual thing that happening is maybe projecting our thoughts, emotions, feeling. I don't know the exact definition, but seeing ourselves in a situation with someone and going through that experience together and then acknowledging it to each other is a projection. So these are three different things, and which can happen to anyone, anywhere. And the only concern is with dissociation. If somebody is experiencing it, get help. But if you're experiencing these two things, most people are not comfortable talking about this. Even people who meditate, like people with me who meditate seriously, they wouldn't talk about this because it's very personal. And also it's easy for people who are not very aware or have had understanding of how spirituality and meditation works to idealize these gifts and create idol worship and unhealthy idolization around these people and things. So I didn't want that happening for many. That's why I didn't share. But I think now, with collectively how many people are becoming awakened, in my generation at least, I feel we have come to a point where the awakening and the awareness of self-realization of, okay, we are collectively going towards an awakening is so powerful that it's time for me to start putting these things out there so that people listen, understand that they are not alone in this. There have been people before us, there are people right now, and there are people going to be in the future. But this is what it is. This happens to a lot of people, and it's not something that's rare. And we are here for them to support.
I mean, Anu, I am just blown away by your journey. Well, I'm not actually sure how to explain this, but your journey, your experience. Luckily, your parents listened to you when you were a very young child. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having this conversation. So thank God they did listen to you. It's been absolutely fascinating, Anu. It just opens up a whole new world, and particularly the level of responsibility you have when you do have this ability of being a clairvoyant. I think it's been an absolutely fascinating conversation, and I feel very privileged that you have been so honest and shared with us your journey into this gift that you have been given.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for giving me a platform where I can share my story.
You are most welcome. It's been a fascinating conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed the conversation. Please subscribe on whatever platform you are using. It is free, and if you would like to tell your story, please contact me on allaboutyoupodcast@yahoo.com and let's tell your story.